After a huge week of news, including Mo Salah potentially leaving Liverpool, Xabi Alonso potentially leaving Real Madrid, we're going to be identifying and looking at some of the biggest movers and shakers in this January window. We've got players, we've got managers to talk about today. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. We have to start with Mo Salah then, don't we? Because we've all seen the reaction. We've seen him dropped out of the squad against Inter Milan. We've seen the positive result that happened there. And it is worth talking about the change of system that Arne Slot utilised, that diamond midfield, the two up front structure that didn't include any wingers. Partly, I think that was out of necessity. Obviously, Gakpo out, Chiesa out, no possibility of taking Salah. But it definitely looked more solid. And if that is going to be the long-term strategy, it might be the only way of getting Isak and Ekitike both into this lineup, then I think this probably is the end of Mo Salah. I think he might well have played his final ever game. He would surely have to sort of apologise to Slot, renege on some of the things he said, which were really colossal. I mean, they were huge statements to be making, and they were statements of a player who it feels like is edging towards the exit door. But where can he go? Well, we have to talk about Saudi Arabia as being the principal destination. Of course, we saw previously Al Ittihad have a £150 million verbal offer rejected by the club. That was back in 2023. Last summer, he was extremely close to joining on a free transfer before signing that Liverpool contract, or at least he used that Saudi rumour to develop his bargaining position at Anfield. So it does feel like one of Al Ittihad, one of Al Hilal, one of Al Ali are definitely leading contenders. And we also saw this week the Saudi Pro League CEO, Omar Magarbal, say that Mohamed Salah is welcome in the Saudi Pro League, but it's the clubs that are responsible for negotiating players. I think that's a strong position to take. Clearly, they're going to be open to taking Mo Salah into their league. Whoever wants to sign him can sign him in that January window. The funds are there. Now, according to some reports, Al Hilal are the most advanced in their negotiations. Of course, they're fronted and managed by Semenyo and Zirkzee. And look, I don't really think it matters where he goes. I think he is going to end up in the Saudi Pro League. I would be extremely surprised to see Mo Salah's position at Liverpool change from this position. I think it would have to be some sort of public apology. It would have to be the end of Arne Slot leaving the club, Salah being brought in from the cold from that position, because the statements were so nuclear. The reaction has been so gargantuan that from this position, if Slot brings him back into the team, it almost feels like, has Salah won that battle? And if he doesn't choose to bring him back into the team, there's surely no way Liverpool as a club don't cash in on him in the January window. They're not going to let him sit earning, £300,000-400,000 a week every week all the way for another 6 months. But what do you guys think? Is Salah going to win this battle? Is he going to come back into the side? Is he going to be a starting player under Arne Slot? I'm interested to hear your takes as to where he could potentially go. I don't see any other destinations available other than Saudi. Who can afford him? That brings us perfectly on to Antoine Semenyo, because this news has really kicked up a gear, hasn't it, this week? Following the Mohamed Salah news, he is sort of the principal name Liverpool fans want brought through the door if Salah leaves. He's got that £65 million release clause in the winter window. He can play on that right-hand side, although 75% of his minutes so far in a Bournemouth shirt this season have come on the left. Not an awful lot on the right, but he can do that. Last season, he was the most two-footed finisher in the league, so there's nothing to say he couldn't play on that right-hand side consistently too. It's been a little bit of a slow period, I think it's fair to say, for Semenyo. After going off like a rocket, 9 goals and assists in his first 10 games for club and country this season. He hasn't contributed any of his last 9 since that period, but he's still playing really well. He's still extremely dynamic. He's had goals disallowed in that time period as well. He's had massive chances being created that have been missed, sitters that have been missed. Look at that Evan Nielsen chance at the weekend. I think we are still talking about one of the outstanding players in the league. Liverpool now, with Salah exiting, do look like, for me, the favourites for this signature. It's a really powerful position to be in. If they can shift Mo Salah on for £50+ million and effectively replace him with the same amount of money for Semenyo, who is, 7 years his junior, 6-7 years his junior, is a physical demon, which is clearly the direction the Premier League is going in, and is playing really well right now. He might well guarantee them Champions League football next season, because right now as we sit here, I don't think it is guaranteed that Liverpool get a Champions League spot, and I think Semenyo does move the dial. What that would mean for this new diamond midfield, how would he fit in with Ekitike and Isak? That's a really interesting question, and one that would surely, keep Slot up at night, because it would probably mean shifting back to a 4-3-3 with Semenyo playing on the right. Does Cody Gakpo come back in? He feels like Arne Slot's favourite. Lots of question marks, but this would be a top move. I'm not going to put it in that'll happen, because you've got the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham, Man City supposedly interested. but it does feel like Liverpool lead the race right now. An alternate to Antoine Semenyo could be Yan Diomande, who is ridiculous. He is on fire this season for Leipzig. He's tearing the Bundesliga apart, especially in recent weeks. You know, it's 10 goal contributions in his last 10 games for club and country. He's repping for the Ivory Coast now. At the weekend, his hat-trick. If you haven't seen Yan Diomande's hat-trick last weekend for Leipzig, please go and watch it. That hat-trick made him the youngest foreign player ever to score a Bundesliga hat-trick. I think he's the youngest African to score a hat-trick in any of the top 5 leagues in history. His speed of improvement is absolutely terrifying. Every week he is adding a new element to his game. Let's not forget that last season he spent the majority of it playing for Leganes' second team in La Liga. Second team. I think he only actually made 10 La Liga appearances for the senior team last season. And then obviously Leipzig decided they were going to activate the clause. They must have done deep dives in those scouting reports because they have unearthed an absolute gem. I remember when he joined Leipzig, after the first few training sessions, I remember reading an article of Athletic, and German experts were talking about him being 100 million euro star. This is going to be the next 100 million euro star. And yeah, it's true, isn't it? It is true. He is terrifying ball carrier, super athletic. His shot selection and decision making is just outrageous. Do I see him moving to Liverpool in the January window? I think it's really unrealistic. I think he's going to be priced out of a move. Do I see him staying at Leipzig beyond next summer? No. I don't think he'll spend more than 2 seasons in the Bundesliga unless the second season is at Bayern Munich. For me, he will move on. It'll be for an absolutely monstrous fee. But Liverpool have spent monstrous fees already. Semenyo is more achievable, has a more immediate impact, I believe. He's got a release clause. Yan Diomande's going to be the talk of the town in the summer. He's going to be priced out of everybody. It's going to be a bidding war. He's a future superstar. We're not just talking about players, though. We have to talk about managers today because this is likely to happen before the January transfer window, but the future of Xabi Alonso remains in the balance. Another loss last night, this time against Manchester City. It's starting to get ugly. It was actually the Celta Vigo result, though, I think that was just so damaging. A 2-0 loss at home. The boos, the decision-making, the lack of discipline with Fran Garcia and Carreras. That was ugly. Militao, then, major injury. It looks like he could be out for the entire season. It's just all gone wrong. I was actually listening to Raymond Calderon, who was the former president of Real Madrid, recently in an interview, and he was talking about Xabi Alonso's struggles and player power, and the interviewer was like, well, can you not just change 5 or 6 players here to really suit Xabi Alonso's system? As he saw at Leverkusen, it took him a little bit of time to get going, but once he found the players and the system, got 5 or 6 players through the door, suddenly you kicked into superpower gear. And Calderon sort of looked at the interview and went, it's easier to change 1 man than it is 6 players. And I think that is the stage we're at with Real Madrid. Player power is always going to rule there. This is the Galacticos. I don't see a world in which Perez changes that philosophy. And it is simply easier to change 1 man in Xabi Alonso than it is to remove the likes of Vinicius or Mbappe or whoever in midfield. Like, these moves don't necessarily happen, I personally believe. I think it's probably coming towards the end of Xabi Alonso now. I think tactically, it's a big shift for Real Madrid to ask the squad to do what he wants to do. He's also sort of, at times, indulged some of these superstar players, which is always a big risk. He's clearly fallen out with Vinny behind the scenes, but then you saw his reaction when Vinny was subbed off against Barcelona late in El Clasico and sort of threw that horrible tantrum. I didn't really see any repercussions for that moment, which is a real shame because I wanted Xabi Alonso to work at Real Madrid. But, you know, that tactico style of manager, and I think he's really tactically influential in the modern game, doesn't necessarily always suit the superstar group. And the superstar group at Real Madrid always wins out, even when you're a club legend like Xabi Alonso. I think it will happen that he will be removed before the January window. I just don't see Xabi Alonso lasting the season. There's just so many issues there. And does that open the door for a return to Liverpool? Does Xabi Alonso being freed up at Real Madrid mean that Arne Slot is under even more pressure? Because you've got sort of shadow lingering of Xabi Alonso returning to the club he loves in Liverpool. They courted him prior to Arne Slot, didn't they? Prior to him going to Real Madrid. If things continue to take downward turns domestically for Arne Slot, does Xabi Alonso come into Liverpool? That's a question that I would really like to hear your guys' opinions on. Obviously, he would be Liverpool fans' first choice. I do think it will put the pressure on Arne Slot, but if the performance midweek away at Inter Milan is anything to go by, I think he sticks it out. I think they hold their nerve and keep hold of slot. Xabi Alonso waits to the summer and then assesses his options. The front runner to replace Xabi Alonso is Zinedine Zidane. Now, I don't get it. You know, this has been reported by Marca. There was a write-up in The Athletic about it. It would be a 6-month interim period because, of course, he has basically agreed to take over the France national team job, whatever happens to Deschamps at that World Cup. So, if he's agreed that deal, why would you come in for 6 months? I know he had interim spells at Real Madrid in the past, and of course, took over mid-season, went on to win the Champions League. But why would you risk it? You know, his legacy at Madrid is so powerful, so strong. He's taking over the France job. He's got a nice, serene life, living on a vineyard right now, sipping that red wine. Why have the stress of going back to Real Madrid mid-season? I would be really surprised. I actually think this is unrealistic. And it's going to be interesting to see where Real Madrid turn if they do get rid of Xabi Alonso. If Perez does pull that trigger and Zidane says, actually, I'm just going to hold out for this France national team job, does that mean they promote Arbeloa, which would be a massive risk? Because the options on the market right now are bleak. Last week I was talking about managers for Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, managerial options for Real Madrid are even thinner. Next up, we got the rumours surrounding Kenan Yildiz and Arsenal. Grow up. This one is unrealistic in the January window. You know, he is basically the face of the project at Juventus at this stage. Without him, I don't see how they succeed. I think if you were to sell him, Spalletti might actually murder the people involved in the sale. He is so key, so integral to how Spalletti plays now, that if you took him out of the team even for an injury, you feel like it's all going to collapse around him. I mean, this is the second youngest player in the last 50 years of Juventus history to score at least 5 goals in his first 15 Serie A games of a season. The only other player that's done that, Del Piero, the youngest Champions League goalscorer in Juventus history, breaking Del Piero's record. This is probably like £100 million plus talent. There's no way Juventus let that go mid-season. Their entire campaign would collapse. The manager might well leave. The fans would riot. I don't even necessarily think he's the best fit for Arsenal, who are looking probably more for an out-and-out left winger. You look at Yildiz at his best, I think, is when he's floating inside, a lot of times in that sort of 10 space. That's not going to happen with Eze on the books, with Ødegaard on the books. You just don't get this level of player in January unless there's a huge contractual issue, unless there's a release clause. These moves never happen in that window. Another transfer that is being highly speculated is that of Buardi. Could he join Arsenal in the January window? No. Like, heavily linked to the Gunners, heavily linked to Real Madrid as well, I think to Manchester City too. But let's not forget he has literally in the last 5 days signed a new long-term contract. That's until 2029. Obviously, I think that comes with a caveat that it's sort of protecting his value. He's not going to be at Lille until 2029. Foot Mercato actually reporting that despite that new contract, Lille want 50, 60 million euros for him in the summer window. So I think it probably protects their interest in January. They are still going to move him on in the summer window, though. And I mean, this is a unicorn talent, isn't it? A lot of teams are going to be interested in Buardi in that summer window if that 50, 60 million euro price tag is to be believed. His ball carrying ability is just absolutely absurd. His technical level is so high that it feels like even at 18, he's already outgrown Lille in that midfield space. He's probably the next guy up, but a January move is just not going to happen. And is Arsenal the best destination? Maybe you are future-proofing the midfield with a player like Buardi, who could cover Zubimendi, could cover Declan Rice with that ball-carrying ability. But where do the guaranteed minutes come from? Because you are going to be playing second fiddle to Rice and Zubimendi, who are just machines right now. Maybe there's an argument to be said that those guys need rest. Declan Rice needs rest. Look at the amount of minutes he's put in this season, and Buardi could come in that moment. But when teams like Real Madrid are on the table, potentially offering more minutes than Arsenal right now, Manchester City, could he start in midfield for them right now? Arsenal are in a really unique position that the first team is so good. To break into it, you have to be like an outrageous superstar that's ready to make impacts immediately. At 18, that move is a big move. You would be competing with the best players in the world in that role. I wonder if there's a stepping stone before Arsenal for Buardi. We've got to talk about this one. I don't know where this rumour has popped up from. I think it's actually in the Mexican press. But this is Sergio Ramos joining Manchester United. What's going on? Is this 2016 all over again? We've seen Ramos linked to Man United to get new contracts at every single stage of his career. every single stage. Whenever he's needing a new contract, call Man United. Tell everybody we've called Man United and Man United want us. It never happens. He's 39. I know he's a free transfer. He's left Monterrey. He's not going to United. If he joins Man United, I will do a month's worth of content wearing exclusively Liverpool kits. This is just not happening. It's stupidity. United have got a bucket load of centre-backs. Lissandro is back. Aiden Heaven has played consistent minutes recently. De Ligt, Yoro, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire soon to be back from injury. Why would they sign a 39-year-old Sergio Ramos? It's the most un-Ineos move ever. This is... Even Ed Woodward would say no. Let's finish on a couple Manchester United moves that might happen, though. Starting with Kobbie Mainoo, who is being increasingly linked with Bayern Munich in the January transfer window. A few weeks ago, we were chatting about him potentially going to Napoli. Could he now move to Bayern? From his point of view, clearly he wants out of United. Totally fair enough. The minutes aren't there, and I don't see how they're going to be there. It's breaking my heart to see this. One of the best midfield products I've seen from United in the last decade. Going to be allowed to leave for pennies on the dollar. Seriously, if he goes for 40-50 million pounds, this is a bargain. But let's say that he does go and Bayern Munich do come and pay the money, the 40 million pounds, whatever. Does he fit? And is it the right move for Kobbie? Well, I think if you look at their midfield right now with Kimmich, with Goretzka, Pavlovic, you've got Bischoff as well, all getting minutes. Goretzka actually alongside Kimmich, because Kimmich is a lock in that defensive, deeper lying position. Goretzka has actually put up a significant amount of minutes. He's actually put up the second most minutes of any midfielder in this Bayern Munich squad, not including the number 10s as well. Let's say Kobbie is an 8 for the purpose of this argument. Goretzka's put up 700 Bundesliga minutes. Pavlovic, on the other hand, has started every Champions League game. So you can see they've got a nice balance between Pavlovic and Goretzka sharing minutes in that alternate 8 slot. Well, it is worth noting that Goretzka at this stage is 30 years old, so could Kobbie be the long-term heir to the Goretzka minutes? Could he function alongside Pavlovic, sharing minutes, and then also in the future be a double pivot, Kobbie Mainoo and Pavlovic, with Musiala in front of them? I mean, it's extremely exciting stuff. I think the issue you've potentially got of your Kobbie is you're not going to be guaranteed minutes this season. Don't think he is right now better than Kimmich, Goretzka or Pavlovic. He's probably a little bit unfit. It's extremely unlikely by going to Bayern Munich, you enhance your chances of making that World Cup squad because you're going to be sharing, at best sharing minutes with 4 really top-level central midfielders. They've also got Bischoff coming through the ranks, who looks an incredible talent. And in the 10 space, where at times some people have made the argument Kobbie can live, because he's so good around the edge of the box. You look at some of his finishing in the FA Cup final against Liverpool, against Wolves. That's where you've got Jamal Musiala, you've got Lennart Karl, Michael Olise can play in the 10 too. So there's a bunch of competition, but it's much more positive competition than at Manchester United. And the way I would quantify that is the competition at United is beatable, not under Amorim for Mainoo though, because he sees Mainoo competing with Bruno, who plays every minute of every game, who's captain, and won't be taken off. So if that is going to be the case, the minutes are literally 0. Whereas at Bayern, the competition potentially is more shared because you've got a fair crack of the whip under Vincent Kompany. This would be a top move. I think long term, this would be awesome for the player. I think it'd be a really smart bit of business for Bayern, beating out some of Europe's best sides for his signature. Overall, it'd be great. It wouldn't guarantee a World Cup spot, though. Final one we'll talk about is Joshua Zirkzee. Roma, those rumours just will not go away, will they? And I can see why Roma are so desperate to bring him in. Obviously, they are still competing for a Scudetto here. They're only 4 points off the top of the league at the time of recording. And the goals just, I mean, they're non-existent. They're 12th by goals scored. You look at the 11, Mateus Sule, kind of playing in that 10 space, top scorer of 4. Dovbyk, it's not happening. Evan Ferguson, not happening. He scored 1. Dovbyk's got 2. Evan Ferguson, at the weekend when he came on, he had that chance, didn't he? Sort of fell over his own feet a couple of times. Just looks a bit awkward. Highly likely he's going to return to Brighton in that January window. So if that happens, they don't have a striker. Zirkzee feels like the obvious choice here. 11 goals last time he was in Serie A. Serie A Young Player of the Year. The system would really suit him with Sule playing, with Paulo Dybala in the squad too. I think this would be a top move for Roma. I think this is an achievable transfer. However, from Zirkzee's point of view, minutes are becoming a little bit more consistent at Manchester United. I think he wants to succeed in the Premier League a lot. It's a much better move than going to a West Ham. He should stay and fight for his place for the next 6 months. I don't think the January window is the time for Zirkzee to move on. From a Man United point of view, they need the depth. From Zirkzee's point of view, it could still happen at the club. You know, let's say Amorim doesn't last the entire season. Another manager might come in and fancy Joshua Zirkzee. So I would hold my nerve if I was Zirkzee for the summer window. From Roma's point of view, though, I think that would be a top move for the player. Okay, so those were 10 of the biggest transfer rumours and manager rumours so far that we've seen. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. I'll see you later. Auf Wiedersehen.